Hi folks, my name is Mel Tanas. I'm with an organization called SOAR, and I have other fellow members of SOAR. And my right is Ted Markey. Next to Ted is Joe Walkenhauer, and on my left is Max Gallaudet. SOAR was formed by a group of individuals that was concerned the way the country is going, both locally, statewide, and nationally. SOAR is Save Our American Rights. There's a 501c3, which is a rating that we have from the Internal Revenue Service, so those that are members or contribute, they can use that as a charitable donation. Our main cause is to inform and educate the public on today's important issues, to increase citizens' involvement in the policy-making decisions, to support free enterprise through less regulations and taxes, to limit the size and scope of government, lower taxes, protect Americans' freedom and the rights of the future generations. All of us sitting around this table have children and grandchildren. Some of us have great-grandchildren. We're worried about their future, and we're here to see if we can help make a difference.
Who was the consultant that was hired to put together the program for a need of this? Because it seems that we're here today questioning whether there's a need for both of these underpasses in Yakima.
I can answer that if you want me to.
Yeah, sure.
Walcott, W-O-L-C-O-O-T /ABAM, A-B-A-M.
And that was the engineering firm?
That was the engineer. Well, Walcott was the consultant who was sent out ahead of the awarding the engineering contract.
Well, it seems to me from some of the material that I've read that it's really questionable the credibility of that of all of that was put together, because some of the things that I've noticed is that they were anticipating a number of trains, anywhere between 7 to 14 trains coming through, and they said in the very near future, and that was in 2002, and we're 7 years past that now, and what were we looking at the last time we counted trains coming through Yakima?
Well,
three or four.
When I was checking, there was no more than 4, and I understand just recently it's been as few as 2. And I think somebody was mentioning there was none for 3 or 4 days last week.
Yeah, and that's what I understood too.
So I think what we're seeing is they've never updated the old data or their old projections that at one time that when all this rail service was going to come in and they were going to go over Stampede Pass, till they found out the tunnel wasn't tall enough to let them come through there with these double-decker container.
Well, one thing that the consultant did, I thought he kind of loaded up the number of minutes it took for a train to pass through a crossing, and therefore it was an emergency in case there was a fire trucks going to get out and the rest of it. I myself have been stopped, and I've timed them 3.5 minutes, maybe at the outside 4 1/4.
We had John Carl from the Burlington Northern Railroad on May 17, 2007 addressed the City Council and said that there in the very near future would be up to about 14 trains coming through Yakima. Well, the very near future is past, and we're talking about maybe 2 to 3 trains a day at the very most. And an article that the Yakima Herald had that I thought was quite interesting, on July 6th of this year, which is only a few months ago, they spoke with Gus Malados and from Seattle with the Burlington Northern, and he said that future operations depend on what happens with the economy, and that Yakima is a secondary rail now, that we're not considered to be a major player in the movement of transportation. So I think that all of that plays into it, that this report that we got 10 years ago or 8 years ago seems to be out of date and should have been updated all along. Ted, you've got the project funding and where it started and what the initial estimates were. Where are we at with that, and how's it played out?
Well, it started at 14 million, and then in 05 it was up to 29 million, excuse me. And then in December the 8th, December of 08, the project had gone over 42 million. This does not include the the cost of purchasing BNSF property. So it's actually, you know.
So
it's
originally, this thing
it's
started at $14 million.
14 million.
And that was the estimate that it was gonna cost.
Right.
And we're now at 43 million,
Well, 44 really.
44
million.
plus.
And counting.
And
County, yeah, it's
So
good.
it's escalated significantly. But you know, the other thing that people seem to forget is the railroad's pulled out of Yakima before. This isn't a railroad coming to service Yakima. This is a railroad going through Yakima. It doesn't stop here. It goes on, it goes right through us. So it's not doing us any real benefit. It's not hauling apples and lumber from Boise Cascade away. It's not doing that.
No
It's
longer,
just
that's
going
right.
right on through town.
Well, I checked with an individual that should be in the Norfolk Shields Bag Company, and they indicated they get their bulk product for making plastic bags, not off the Burlington or Santa Fe, but off at Temple's Railroad that picks up in Pasco or other places.
In fact, the railroad spokesman in Seattle this year came right out and said that the Yakima line has a role to play in the future, but it's impossible for them to predict the estimate the amount of trains that'll come through Yakima. The large bulk of Washington traffic will be handled through the Columbia Gorge, they say, and Stevens Pass route, with Yakima Stampede Pass as a secondary mainline connection. So they're considering us a second line.
Well, I don't think it's wise use of taxpayer money. And whether it comes from Washington DC, no matter where you look, somebody's picking your pocket for taxes. And it's time that we have people that will say, okay, that is not really the idea of a good way to spend money.
And is this something we want our children and future generations to have to pay for?
Well-
And, you know, that's the thing. It's not gonna really affect us that much, because we'll probably be gone.
Well, I think this is a classic example that, well, like I say, in '96, that's nearly 14 years ago, this need was perceived, and they went out and generated some hypothetical situations. Well, they didn't mature in 14 years. That
Yeah.
really, we ought to be flexible enough to go back and
Yeah.
say, you know, that was good, we looked at it, that's not a problem today. Let's address some of our other real needs.
Well, we ran our business that we decided 14 years ago that we were gonna do something, we're gonna build a new building. And now our business is doing about 1/4 of what it used to do. I mean, what would we do? Would we continue to pursue that?
No,
I don't
it'd be in
think
big
so,
trouble.
and that's really the issue.
Well, and that's kind of the way it is, and it seems like with councils and even all government, once they get locked into a program, there's no stopping them. That program just keeps going and going, whether there's a need for it or not anymore.
If
And I'd like
we
to
lost
know-
that flexibility to say, hold it, we looked at this again, and this is not something we're concerned with.
And I think we all agree that we've spent so much money on it now that one underpass is probably the way to go on it, but they certainly don't need two of them.
Just because they got this far, they've lost the money anyway. I'd move and look at it judiciously and say,
Doesn't run?
what makes sense here? In today's environment, you know, it made sense to them then to set it up, but now does it still make sense to pursue this thing? Yeah, we got funding, well, that means we're gonna lose our funding. Hey,
The only thing that
I'm
I'm
talking too much.
The only thing I'm saying, Ted, is that we've spent so much on it that you hate to just cut and run and lose what you've spent on it. Putting one in would probably be the right
what
thing to do.
value is that, though, Joe?
Well, you're right there too.
what is the value of that other than?
Two, there's no value at all. There's no
Well,
Well, I mean, what is the value?
Back in
of that?
DC, they call it stimulus, don't they?
Yeah, I got a stimulus.
Public
now.
Works project. but-
Yeah.
Well, I think probably, I hope this will get other people's attention, saying we can make changes, and we should make changes. And with that, I think we can turn around and thank you for being here, and we'll go on to another subject down the road, and we'll use the same treatment on it.